Okay, now we're going to start building this out with the Poly to Poly method, similar we used with the body and the hand. You can use a different kind of method. There's a lot of tutorials out there, but the one I generated myself over the years is just taking a single create polygon tool. Poly to poly means you extrude an edge, extrude an edge, extrude an edge, and just kind of build brick by brick, so to speak, that way. Um, I mix it a little different ways I've learned from different people over the years in personal ways. And this guy, Ryan Kittleson, came up with a very similar, very fast and simple ways to show students. Maybe it's not the most accurate, but it's the most efficient way to finish the head project within a reasonable amount of time. Okay, I have this link to this particular video. It's quite old, but the structuring, the organic strategy in it still stands and will stand the test of time. I'm going to recreate this in Maya 19, but I'm going to let Ryan explain a little bit the strategy of using edge loops and building out the face and its structures. Hope this is not too loud. I'm just going to play.
This tutorial demonstrates a fast and easy way to achieve good edge flow on a face model. The two most important structures on the face are the eyes and the mouth, so we will concentrate on creating good edge flow for those areas first, and the other areas of the face will become subordinate to the eyes and the mouth. Start by creating a plane and positioning it roughly over the face, then dividing it so that one polygon is over the eye and the other polygon is roughly over the muzzle region. Select the polygon over the eye and extrude it, then scale that extruded polygon inward and stretch it to fit roughly over the eye and delete it. Do the same thing with the polygon over the mouth, and then delete that extra face that we don't need on the inside, and tweak the verts to fit the reference. You can see that already the edge flow is very simple, but it's set up to follow rings around the eyes and around the mouth. To create the nose, let's cut an edge loop with the split edge ring tool and cut a loop just to the side of the nostril, just below the nostril, and just above the nostril.
Okay, before he goes on a little further, and you're very anxious to see a older version of Maya, I'm going to recreate this. Rest assured, and here in Maya 19, and very similar to Maya 18 or Maya 20. And also rest assured, if you have a different kind of face or a different kind of head, these structures are going to work with anything that has a mouth, has a nose, and has eyes. And you have to think in terms mostly of this, which is edge flow. No matter how you design your face, you're probably going to have an eye, you're probably going to have a nose, probably going to have a mouth. So you can early strategize how the flow of the edges would work into the face. And of course, we're doing just one half of the face. Here's another technique. There's all kinds of lingering on the internet. Just doing the left side of the face first, but an edge flow design for this character, which is a Joan of Arc character, and it's also on my website if you want to look at it. It is a much more detailed approach to do the poly to poly method. Look at how much accuracy is in the face mask, but it's going to take you much more time to do this. So it's not the standard that I show students. I want them to get at the result easier, but if you feel adept enough to do it, you can try. This one's called the Joan of Arc tutorial, and it is on the website as well. And of course, many more versions out there with ZBrush and the kind of intuitiveness, let's say, you can with a sculpting medium. There's Mudbox and ZBrush. Just know that whatever I'm showing in class is quite limited, but it is containable within the time that we have, hopefully. Just other things that are out there. This is Mudbox, which we do normally have in the lab, considering our current situation. Students may be able to get a Mudbox free, as they would in the package with Maya. But it has its own unique quirks and its interreliance on a high quality mesh. And so I'm just going to show you that it's out there. It's a much more intuitive way to make 3D characters and heads and modeling and sculpting, but it is a very different approach and technology in which we are sticking to one approach at a time. And for this course, it will be mainly using Maya and mainly using polygonal sculpting. So, could you get a very detailed and colorful head like this just with polygonal modeling and sculpting just within Maya? Absolutely, yes, you can. It's just a little bit less intuitive, but you have a powerful command if you can do these simple tools to create, low poly topology and be able to animate that. And that's not what the power is of some of those other sculpting tools that are more intuitive, like ZBrush, like Mudbox. They get very, very heavy, and you have to learn a lot more strategies to make them animatable. So we are going to focus on the essentials that's going to get you the farthest, and which is the most commonly used nationally and internationally as a professional 3D software package. And also, before diving into modeling, I want you to take a little look at this. Three different heads right here. It's actually the same head. This is if you hit 1 on the keyboard. This is if you hit 3. And this one, it looks so much more detailed. But what's going on here is only the effect of the bump mapping. It's the illusion of wrinkles and raised areas and furrows and deep clefts and stuff like that. I mean, some of it's in there. So the better you are at painting and getting more detail, the better chance you have at getting a more sophisticated sculpted look to it. So another reason I'm showing you this, 3 different versions really of the exact same mesh, is because you're witnessing the edge rings here, these circles, those concentric circles that flow around the features. That is really necessary to build in order to animate, because if this thing had a blink, if he had a, I don't know, maybe sniff, but certainly move his mouth and jaw, those have to be constructed in a way that lends itself to deformation. What's deformation? Well, anytime something moves, if he opens his mouth. Okay, if this was created with a different type of edge flow, like it was just a grid-like structure, well, then it would start to bend and break in weird places. But because the edge flow is quite like this in rings, and rings around the eyes, it's going to naturally animate better. So it's possible you can model this beautiful thing, intricate, and it's not animatable. You would have to start from scratch. That's why you have to get some of these good habits when you start modeling early on, so you know it's going to be real quick and going in the right direction. And back to Kittleson, and this is actually why he puts these in to start with, to get it really in your system, let's say in your mind, that you're going to be building in that way. And if you do the structure that we're both suggesting, you're going to build that edge flow in the early blueprint of the, let's say, the structure. Okay, on to it. And if that whole first chunk of this video completely understood and it's boring, jump right over it and just get to this part. We begin modeling. If, of course, you haven't already done that. All right, I'm on the front view, and I clicked X-ray so I could see through my initial polygon. All right. So all I'm going to do with this first polygon is stretch it over the face like this. And if I hit X, it will snap to grid, so I know it's on that line. If that helps, to about here. Snapping it here. So it's touching the chin and about here. However your face is constructed, it's going to be a different shape. Okay, this is just fine. This one's a little bit far over, so just about there on the face shape. Okay, now I have on my shelf stored here edge loop tool. It's going to be up in your mesh tools, and I'm going to just click a line that's going to divide his quite long chin, but one section here, I put the line there to be the muzzle region, and this part the eye region. Okay, it would be a good idea to just pop in the side view and pose that a little better. Okay, here I already put a little bit of a tilt on it. That's pretty good. I'm going to select just that edge there and move it there, move it back. just a little bit like that. And I know this is going to be like that. Let's put it on x-ray so you can see through it. Okay, it's never too early to start to position this a little bit. That's getting the flavor of the side already in this early stage. Okay, like that. Just that simple so far. Now I'm going to select the polygon, that face over the eye, and I'm going to extrude it. I have my tool here to extrude and just scale it inward, position it kind of over the eye, and then delete it. I can leave a hole there, I don't need it. And then start to position the CVs already a bit in the shape of his eye. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this one. Okay, I'm going to G to do the same extrusion. All right, and then I'm going to delete that one and that one. See what I did? This one and that one. So it leaves this U-shaped piece like that. Okay, and I can scale that down, or I can snap to grid to put that on the edge if I like. You can be a little sloppy at the beginning. Don't have to snap everything, but and I'm going to move that down here, down here, down there, down there. So you get this effect like that. It's a little bit like Iron Man's mask. You look what's going on here, and look like, yeah, we could little by little. Don't do too much clicking, not too much edging at once. Just fixing in the side view. Don't worry, we're going to pull out the nose later. We're going to keep this kind of flat. In other words, don't do that, okay? Don't do that or it's going to cause lots of topology problems. What we're going to do is build out the nose. So we're going to separate the nose from the muzzle, kind of like that. Try to keep this in the white line edge flow that you saw that strategy drawn before, without really stretching stuff crazy like that. Okay, we do need to start figuring how this is going to fit the eye. Okay, this doesn't need to come out like that. You could just worry about that later. Something like that. And whatever design you have is going to be just radically different. So I hope you just catch the concept. And front view. Get around for that kind of a flow like that. Here's where the two views may not agree. You know, you're going to find disagreement maybe in your design or your mouth. It says it should be up here because he's smiling more, but you check here, it's way too high. Just split the difference and find a middle point you can agree and leave it alone. Okay, well, this type of stuff right here, that diagonal, is not so good. So we need to fix that before we create the nose. So we're going to create an edge loop here. So the edge loop, we're going to create an edge on top here, edge on top there, and might as well go there too. Okay, we're going to go this way too with the edge loop. Right here for the lips, kind of right there before the nose starts, and then let me do that again. So we're going to do one loop at just under the nostril, letter nose, and one just over. So you can't see the nostril, but imaginary nostril here, right, where that would be the top and the bottom. That's going to help give you enough material right there to build out the nose. Now we've got a lot of new geometry in here. We've got, before we move on to the next step, we should clean up our mess a little bit and just make this edge flow work. Oops, I don't want to do an extra edge, sorry. And remember those lines, those white guidelines that was drawn on the old man's face. Okay, we want to think about those and draw those. And as we're getting closer to more organic study, it's very particular for your design. You might be thinking, why can't I just use a dummy head or a model that just fits right in and stretch and tweak the points? Trust me, it's really hard to have a one-size-fits-all model, and if you get fast enough as even amateur modelers, it's much easier to start with your own design because every head and face is uniquely different. That the devil will be in the details if you try to have a one-size-fits-all strategy and end up spending more time. So this is why we are modeling everything from scratch, and we'll get fast at it and not worry about we can do any design we can come up with. Time to check the side view too. If you hadn't been there for a while, you're gonna fix that in the side view and give some room to breathe, some oxygen to these points sticking out and pulling every which way. Now again, we're not building out the nose yet, so it's not coming out like that. It would be sort of flat. We're going to anticipate that later. And we're hugging around the edge loops like this, ascribing to that ripple in the pond strategy of things going around. And of course, I am not working in the perspective view, okay? Not yet. It's too premature for that. It's only in the side and the front view. Okay, we could probably add some more to here around the eye. Maybe one here, maybe one here. Then go in and tweak the CVs in the way they seem to want to flow. This is the artistic guesswork you're going to do. And here in the side as well. You know, the eye's going back like this, so I'm modeling just the inner, let's call it the edge of the eye fold, you know, before the eyelash starts. I'm not modeling down there, just at the hole, for this hole in the head that exposes the eye, something like that. That's my strategy here. Okay. And it's kind of like a custom fit. I've described it as Spider-Man's mask, as you want to uniquely fit it to the wearer, and it should have some, not just flow, but sense of how it wraps around the contours of your unique character's face. Okay, we can start adding rings here to get more definition on the eye, and look what happens. It's going to flow in that concentric ring pattern already. Like there would be a good placement. And oops, just nuzzle some of these into position and making a ring, not a boxy geometric thing, instead as close as you can to a flowing ring within a limited amount of CVs, let's say, and then check the side view that you're meeting the demand of your design by kind of the spider web way of drawing in 3D. Don't forget to save. It's been a little bit of a time that you can do that. You can, if you like, do incremental saves, but every time you hit Command S, if you're on a Mac, it's going to save a new version. So you might end up with dozens and dozens of versions. I just save anew with a new version number probably every 5 to 8 minutes, so you don't go crazy if you lose too much. All right. That's about as much as we can do for now. Now let's pull out the nose, just selecting the face right over the, let's say, the most pointy part of the nose, that face right here, and we're going to extrude that out and hit the extrude tool, and we can move to the different the side view and pull that out, kind of like Pinocchio nose, just for the time being. Okay, so we have that more substance there to work with, and depending on your character, you might have a really small nose or a really big nose, but now we can use that to sort of massage it in and extrude more faces from it as we go, as we need. You don't want to start stretching it too much like this, or that's telling you you might need to extrude again. And also on the other side, don't extrude too much where you have a density or a overconcentration of edges or faces. Now this is the first quick look in the perspective view. One thing you do want to do when you do a nose, if you do it like this, is delete this face. You don't need that one, right? You might have learned in your body when you're modeling that you don't want anything before you mirror it over to be interfering here. So anything facing the opposite mirror, let's say the opposite side, left to right or right to left, you should delete so we don't get double faces in the mirror. So that would have been the case with the nose, so I deleted that face that was there. Again, to show you, it was this one facing the inside of the nose. Just delete it, or if you have anything like that when you extrude out. All right, that's what it's looking already, kind of like a mask hitting 3 in the perspective view. Still don't want to work too much in here, but we're going to look in the side view. And in the side view, if it were 3, it looks like we're going to need more definition to make this shape. We're going to add some more rows. Now for that side of the nostril on mine, and if you have something on yours, you're going to probably do this. You're going to select that right there, the side of it, and as you might be guessing, extrude that. So you're going to need that extra tissue to be able to form like that fleshy part on the side of the nose, which you can play with and try to mold into, and grab edges and mold into place. You see something like that to give definition to, but always hit 1 and make sure you're not overstretching it. That will cause a little bit of extremity and all the rest of the workflow. But you kind of can see you're on the right direction really early on in the game. Not very many faces here. Remember, you just go to display, heads up display, poly count to show how many you have so far. And it's in a very low amount, only 38 so far. And what's good is it's already taking on a resemblance with that few amount. And we're not quite ready to work in the persp view. Now we can select this polygon underneath the nose. We're going to create a cavity for the nostril. Just click extrude, and already it's lending itself to that shape. And you could extrude one more time to go up into the nostril. That. It's hard to see. Probably don't need that at the end. You could go something like that. No one's going to really see in there. But you get the picture. Shape that however you wish for if your character has a nose. Something like that. Probably a nose as large as this guy's nose. Again, make sure you go back to 1. Don't live in this 3 mode, because you really have to see where the edges of the where the edges are and the polygons are. Okay. So one thing we're going to fix is this structure right here, which isn't quite right. You may or may not have a face like this that you'll need to do, but if you follow this structure, you might have the same situation, and that is this is a diagonal that's causing a diagonal would be mirrored later, and just delete it instead of having that there. And we're going to repair that. Instead of having a diagonal on the corner, we're going to use a tool. This is called the multi-cut tool. And multi-cut tool is very surgical. It's not used for every day because you could really mess up your topology if you use it. It's like a precision scalpel. So we're going to use it to just add one line at a time. So in the mesh tools, I'm going to put this, I'm going to use it up here, so I'm going to select multi-cut, and it looks like a knife, and I'm going to click here and then click here, and then you can hit Y, or I think you can hit return or right mouse button, whatever you prefer. And then we're going to do again here. We're going to G and then click here and then click there. Okay, and then hit Y. So now instead of on a diagonal, this is nice and square. So when you mirror it over, you're going to get a nice square on the opposite side. If you have anything like that on your model anywhere on the body or the face, see if you can fix it before you mirror it over. We have a similar problem here. You know how that's going on an angle? That's not so good either. So I'm going to recut this. I'm going to delete that and recut it like that, straight across using the multi-cut tool like that. Okay, that's much better, nice and square. But we have a new problem. Can you catch it? What happened? Well, we created an n-gon. What's an n-gon? Something that's five-sided. Right there, that's actually not four-sided. It's five-sided if you count up the sides. So we're going to do this. We're going to grab that very dangerous tool, again, the multi-cut tool, and cut this way. And like we have pretty good reaction like that. Now we have to go all the way under for the nostril, no problem. Let's hit Y in there. Now we can rebuild this. It's already on a diagonal, which we don't like anyway, so we're going to delete that. And yes, the best thing to do is delete edge vertex, especially with multi-string CV edges, but since it's just one, I deleted it. But yeah, a good habit would be go into delete edge vertex for that, or have that a hotkey anyway. Now look, I'm going to square off that edge like that, and that's better all the way around. Probably should do it here, so I'm going to click multi-cut tool there, Y, and I don't want that particular edge. Delete that, and now we're all square at the midline, except that, whoop, that's the problem, right? Now that's an n-gon because it's five sides, so I'm going to correct that by doing that. And we need more detail in there anyway. So that's looking really good in terms of topology. I know this is going to work well and be able to sculpt well. And of course, mirror well. And that's one main reason we're doing that. It's time to massage everything into place. This is getting a bit crooked. And every time you do a little bit of work, 5 minutes work, go back and see if you can smooth stuff. Working as a constant on the edge flow. We got new stuff to wrap around here, and the nose comes out like that. Working back in one mode is just pretty wise, because we don't want to delude ourselves into thinking we're not building it, let's say, strong enough, and we do need to add more in places. But just hitting 3 as a test, we can see it's coming along. Check the side views. All right, we need to add some more edges as we place this in better proximity to its reference. As we go, we have more CVs to play with. Doing that face mask nicely. Now, we're not doing the inner part of the lips yet. We're not doing the inner part of the eye yet. It's just like a paper mask just cut out. And I think that's going to work well for any design that you have. Make sure you don't try to go for the inner details of all the flesh coming together in your design. Just let that cut out, because we can extrude all that later. I think that needs to be said. But I'm trying to get all that original flow in place that we planned from the beginning. Okay. And only then, when stuff can't really be massaged anymore in place, if you see something a little off place, try to make it look the best you can and clean, and then you're just out of maneuverability. I would say then and only then, add some more edges. Okay, we really lack any control in here, so I think we can add an edge right there. Probably stop there and massage it in. Add one more here, one more there, and one more there. That gives us a lot of balance. Just added 3 or 4 different edges there, and we can stop. We have collected a lot of history here, which we probably don't need, and it can lead to crashing Maya, so I can delete by type history and save it if you haven't saved it for a while, and then massage those new ones into place, and we're really getting something that looks like a face. And it's suddenly starting to feel like sculpting a bit more. But all this can only happen when you have the foundation and the mesh in the right position, right location to create loops, edge loops. It's going to flow and everything makes sense when it does later get to animation as you go. Okay, a lot more to make into smoother rings in the front and side views here. And such, look at the lines of the muscles and the fat and the folds of the face that you might have with your particular design, and try to form around it as best as you can, so we're getting these circles right here and here and here. And with the nose, you can build out a sensible bridge like this as we go. So everything meshes together like in a web. It's not that we're building it as constructively as a brick. So this is the polygon to polygon method, but perhaps the better metaphor is we're building edge to edge, flow to flow, as everything is meeting together and mixing together as one concerted spider web, so to speak. That's a real great way to look at how you're going to build with a mesh. And that's a really good place to stop. So, it's a long enough in the video, and we've got a pretty good foundation for a face mask. And let's leave it to the next part to cover the continuing modeling phases. Okay.